If you wait like 10 minutes for your morning coffee, you're probably annoyed.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And if you wait a year for a highly anticipated movie, you're excited. But what happens when you wait a generation? I mean, when you wait so long that the people who started the waiting aren't even around to see it end.
That's a completely different kind of pressure.
Exactly. And that is the reality for two nations stepping onto the pitch for match day 3 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Today's mission is to dive deep into a massive stack of sources covering the tactical gridlock of Scotland versus Haiti.
Which was quite a match.
It really was. We're going to examine the geopolitical reality forcing the Haitian team to operate entirely in exile, and then eventually we're going to use the fallout from this tournament to basically tear down our assumptions about what fair play actually means.
It's a lot to cover, but it's also interconnected.
It is. Okay, let's unpack this. Because the historical weight on this specific Group C match is just staggering. I mean, Scotland hasn't won a World Cup match since 1990 against Sweden.
Yeah, 1990.
And Haiti hadn't even qualified for the tournament since 1974.
Right. And, the psychological burden of that kind of history, it fundamentally alters how a match is played. It ceases to be just a simple 90-minute athletic contest.
It becomes something heavier.
Exactly. It becomes an inheritance. You are playing against the ghosts of past failures just as much as you're playing the 11 guys in front of you.
Wow, yeah.
And that tension, it dictates the tactics, the crowd response, and just the sheer human resilience required to simply control a football under that magnitude of pressure.
And you could really feel that pressure vibrating through Boston's Gillette Stadium. I mean, the scene was overwhelming. The sources described 64,000 people, and it was just an absolute sea of pink-shirted Scotland fans.
Wearing their away kits, right?
Right. They effectively colonized the stadium. They were drowning out everything else with these massive renditions of Loch Lomond. But the thing is, the party in the stands did not translate to a fluid performance on the pitch. It was an absolute tactical trench war.
It really was a masterclass in spatial denial from Haiti. Steve Clark set Scotland up in a 3-4-2-1 possession system.
Okay, so break that down for us. What does that actually look like?
So the mechanics of this are basically designed to create numerical superiority in the middle of the pitch. You have Kieran Kearney, who is a natural fullback, and he steps up out of the defensive 3 and into the midfield line whenever Scotland has the ball.
Right.
This creates a sort of 4 versus 3 overload in the center. Theoretically, that allows Scotland to dictate the tempo, while their captain, Andy Robertson, pushes incredibly high up the left flank to stretch the opponent horizontally.
I mean, that sounds great on paper, but dictating the tempo only works if the opponent actually wants the ball.
Exactly.
And Haiti didn't seem to care about possession at all. They deployed this ultra-defensive low block. Looking at the spatial data from the match, it looked less like a football formation and more like, I don't know, a tangled net.
That's a really good way to put it.
Right, because the harder Scotland pushed into it, the more compressed the space became. They were essentially attacking a coiled spring.
That is the perfect way to visualize a low block. Haiti essentially dropped their entire midfield line back to sit just yards in front of a 5-man defensive line.
Wow.
Yeah, they surrendered the first 60 yards of the pitch entirely. By packing the defensive third with 9 outfield players, they just eliminated the spaces between the lines.
Those are the half spaces, right, where the attacking midfielders usually want to be.
Right, exactly. So when a team compresses the field like that, numerical superiority in the midfield becomes totally irrelevant. Scotland could pass the ball side to side 30 yards from goal all day long, but the moment they tried to actually penetrate, they were just swallowed up by 2 or 3 Haitian defenders.
Was this actually a dominant performance by Scotland, or just a lucky break against an 83rd ranked team? Because honestly, it felt like watching a heavyweight boxer just awkwardly trying to punch through a brick wall.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like, which explains why Scotland's central striker, Che Adams, spent most of the match just getting physically battered with his back to the goal.
Right.
It was an incredibly unconvincing display from Scotland. If you're caught in that defensive net, you rarely escape with a clean, sweeping, attacking move. You usually just have to force an ugly error.
And that ugly error finally arrived in the 28th minute, completely bypassing that congested midfield. Grant Hanley recognized the central gridlock, and he just launches this direct, looping long ball over the top.
Aiming straight for Che Adams.
Exactly. Adams manages to hold up the play just long enough to lay it off wide to Ben Gannon-Doak.
Right, and then Gannon-Doak drives a low, hard cross into the box. Haiti's goalkeeper, Johnny Placide, who is 38 years old, By the way, he actually reads it really well and makes the initial block.
But he doesn't hold it?
No, the ball spills out into the penalty area.
Uh-huh.
John McGinn arrives late to meet the rebound, but he doesn't hit it cleanly.
Yeah, he catches it really awkwardly. What do they call it in Scottish football? A sclaff?
Yes, a sclaff. It's a scuffed, messy strike that honestly was probably heading straight into the goalkeeper's arms. But then it ricochets directly off the outstretched leg of Haitian midfielder Jean-Rick Bellegarde and just deflects right into the back of the net.
Unbelievable. A deflection that essentially ends 36 years of waiting for Scotland.
Yeah.
But the nature of that goal highlights exactly where Scotland currently stands. After the match, John McGinn even admitted the performance was born out of anxiety.
Oh, for sure.
He called it a pressure game, noting that this gritty win pushes them into, quote-unquote, uncharted territory at the top of Group C.
But the thing is, operating in uncharted territory with that kind of hesitant tactical execution is incredibly dangerous. I mean, with heavyweights like Brazil and Morocco looming in the knockout stages, Scotland cannot rely on heavily deflected sclaffs.
No, definitely not.
A low block from Haiti is one kind of puzzle, but dealing with the transitional speed of elite South American or North African wingers, that's an entirely different tactical universe.
The relief for Scotland is obvious, but contrasting that nervous energy with the reaction from the Haitian supporters provides a totally different perspective on what this tournament actually means.
Oh, absolutely.
While the Tartan Army was sweating out this 1-0 win inside the stadium, the scene down the road in Boston's Copley Square was just pure, unadulterated celebration.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Haitian diaspora fans completely transformed the square. They were playing bamboo trumpets in traditional rara bands. I mean, they had just lost the match, but they were radiating pride just to see their flag on the global broadcast.
Because just getting to that broadcast was a miracle. The logistical and human hurdles this team cleared are almost incomprehensible for a modern international sporting organization.
Right, and we have to rely strictly on the sources for the geopolitical context here, but the reality they paint is stark. Haiti is currently experiencing profound internal turmoil. Gang-led violence has effectively paralyzed the capital, Port-au-Prince.
And displaced roughly 1.5 million people nationwide.
Yeah. And the security apparatus is so compromised that the U.S. government maintains strict travel bans, which means domestic fans couldn't even secure visas to attend the matches in Boston.
Not to mention the broader human tragedy surrounding migration that really hung over the tournament. The sources note the recent tragic death of a Haitian woman in U.S. ICE custody.
It's just a heavy, heavy context.
It is. And practically speaking, the National Federation's infrastructure essentially dissolved. They could not host a single home qualifier in their own country.
Wow.
Every single match to reach this tournament had to be played at neutral venues abroad.
Which leads to an incredibly bizarre reality for their coaching staff. The French manager, Sébastien Mignet, guided this entire qualification campaign without ever once stepping foot inside Haiti.
Never.
He orchestrated a historic sporting achievement entirely from exile. It's the equivalent of a theater director staging a global masterpiece, but being physically locked out of the venue, never allowed to even meet the cast in their own rehearsal space.
That's a great analogy. He literally had to build the squad through Zoom calls and training camps in completely different time zones.
So how do you even build a World Cup team under those conditions?
Well, to circumvent the complete lack of domestic scouting and training infrastructure, Mignet and the Federation leaned heavily into a diaspora strategy.
Okay, meaning players living abroad.
Exactly. Under FIFA eligibility rules, players can represent the nation of their parents or grandparents. So Haiti scouted top-tier European leagues to recruit foreign-born players of Haitian descent.
Like who?
They brought in talent like Wilson Isidore from Sunderland, Jean-Rick Bellegarde from Wolves. These are athletes who were born and developed in the French footballing system, but who actively chose to represent the heritage of a struggling nation rather than holding out for a call-up from France.
And you really hear the motivation when you listen to Derek Etienne Jr., a midfielder born in Virginia. He stated their mission clearly in the sources to change the status quo and bring global awareness to the country. They are acutely aware that a 90-minute football match doesn't solve gang violence. It doesn't rebuild infrastructure. But it provides this fleeting, highly visible moment of unified identity for a diaspora that is really hurting.
Right.
Even in a 1-0 defeat, executing a disciplined defensive block against a European side on the world stage, that is an assertion of dignity.
It perfectly captures the duality of the World Cup. For a nation like Haiti, mere participation, maintaining tactical discipline, and representing the flag is a triumphant success.
Totally.
But for the traditional giants of the sport, the expectations are so suffocating that anything less than total dominance is treated as a systemic failure.
And we saw that exact suffocating pressure elsewhere in Group C. Brazil, the five-time champions, managed by Carlo Ancelotti and featuring superstars like Vinicius Jr., they looked completely disjointed.
They really did.
They barely scraped a 1-1 draw against Morocco. Morocco's Ismail Sibari scored this technically brilliant scooped goal over the Brazilian keeper. And while Vinicius eventually leveled it, the overarching narrative is that Brazil, who are currently playing without an injured Neymar, they're in crisis.
And objectively, a draw against Morocco is a solid result. I mean, Morocco were World Cup semifinalists just 4 years ago.
Right, they're no joke.
Not at all. But the Brazilian footballing philosophy demands not just victory, but aesthetic dominance. When that doesn't materialize, the media scrutiny creates a toxic environment that can easily derail a campaign.
Well, speaking of toxic environments, here's where it gets really interesting. We have to look at the Qatar versus Switzerland match.
Oh boy, yeah.
Qatar secured a shock 1-1 draw with a 95th minute header from Boulim Kuki. But the result was completely overshadowed by a furious debate over the implementation of technology.
The VAR drama.
Exactly. A highly controversial penalty was awarded to the Swiss midfielder Remo Freuler. Now, replays strongly suggested Freuler was offside before the foul occurred. But the video assistant referee, VAR, reviewed the sequence and upheld the penalty anyway.
And the controversy here isn't necessarily about the accuracy of the technology, but the mechanics of its implementation.
Explain that for us.
Well, FIFA employs semi-automatic offside technology. This utilizes a sensor placed inside the match ball that transmits data 500 times per second.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's combined with 12 dedicated tracking cameras mounted beneath the stadium roof. These cameras track 29 separate data points on every individual player's body, their limbs, their extremities, calculating their exact position on the pitch 50 times per second.
That is incredibly precise.
By all mathematical metrics, the system can determine an offside position down to the millimeter.
Right, but having the math and sharing the math are two very different things. And this is my main pushback here. Does technology like VAR actually guarantee fair play, or does it just breed more distrust when the process isn't transparent?
That is the core issue.
Because in this instance, FIFA and the host broadcaster absolutely refused to display the semi-automatic offside lines to the television audience or the fans inside the stadium.
Which is wild.
They made the ruling from a dark room and expected everyone to just accept it. And this lack of transparency fundamentally breaks the social contract of sport. If you have the definitive evidence, but you hide it in a black box, you aren't resolving disputes, you are actively manufacturing distrust.
Former England international Gary Neville articulated this exact frustration during the ITV broadcast. He labeled the situation a dictatorship.
A dictatorship, that's strong.
It is. But his argument was simple. If you have the visual proof that the player was onside, push the button and show it on the screen immediately.
Exactly.
Transparency is the only currency that matters when you're implementing new rules. When an authoritative body asks players and fans to blindly trust a hidden mechanism, it strips away the shared communal understanding of the game.
It's like sitting down for a high-stakes poker game where the dealer uses a computer to shuffle the deck, but won't let anyone see the screen verifying the algorithm.
Yes, perfect analogy.
Even if the shuffle is mathematically perfect, the players are going to feel cheated because they are denied the ability to verify it themselves.
Right.
And this friction, this breakdown in trust between the participants, the technology, and the governing bodies, it forces us to step back and ask a much larger question.
Which is it?
If we are constantly arguing about millimeters, sensors, and hitting video screens, what happens to the actual philosophy of fair play?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it forces us to define what fair play actually is, beyond just a marketing slogan.
Right.
To unpack this, the sources refer to an extensive publication recently released by the Croatian Olympic Committee titled Living Fair Play.
And what does it say?
Well, it is a rigorous historical and philosophical deconstruction of sportsmanship. And it immediately dispels one of the most pervasive myths in global sports, the idea that fair play is a sacred ideal passed down from the ancient Greeks.
I have to admit, I always assumed the original Olympians were out there competing with this noble, philosophical, mutual respect.
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
But the reality is completely the opposite.
Really?
Yeah. The ancient games were exceptionally brutal. Events like the pancration were essentially unregulated combat designed to mimic the ruthlessness of actual warfare.
Wow.
There was no concept of a level playing field. The historical consensus is that the modern framework of fair play was actually engineered in 19th century England, specifically within the elite public school system.
The publication pinpoints Thomas Arnold, the headmaster of Rugby College in the 1830s. He didn't invent sports to celebrate the human spirit. He actually used structured competition as a behavioral modification tool. Yeah, the English boarding schools at the time were plagued by endemic violence, bullying, and riots among the young male students. Arnold realized that by implementing strict, codified rules for physical games, he could channel that aggression into a moral framework.
So it was a strategy to teach these boys how to exert dominance without crossing into savagery.
Exactly. It was the birth of muscular Christianity, the idea that physical vigor and moral integrity were intertwined. You agree to artificial constraints like boundaries, time limits, equal numbers, so that the victory is determined by skill and endurance rather than sheer, unregulated force.
It's a mutually agreed upon social contract.
Right. And the Living Fair Play publication grounds this theory with some of the most remarkable real-world examples from Croatian athletes.
These are incredible stories.
They aren't just about shaking hands after a match. These are instances of athletes actively subverting their own competitive advantage to maintain that social contract. Take the tennis player Marin Cilic. He is playing Jo Wilfried Tsonga in Rotterdam. It's match point for Cilic. He strikes the ball, and at that exact millisecond, a loud, jarring noise erupts from the crowd, clearly startling Tsonga.
Oh, wow.
Cilic's shot lands in bounds. The umpire calls the match. It's over. Cilic is the champion.
And by the strict, codified laws of the game, Cilic has done nothing wrong. The interference came from an external factor. The governing authority awarded him the victory.
But Cilic refuses to accept it.
Really?
Yeah. He recognizes that the external noise broke the equal conditions of the rally. So he walks to the umpire and demands that they replay the match point.
That is wild.
He voluntarily throws away a guaranteed, officially sanctioned victory, placing himself back in jeopardy simply because the mechanics of his win felt ethically compromised.
It requires immense psychological security to separate the concept of winning from the concept of fairness.
Definitely.
But an even more extreme example of this involves the mechanics of the equipment itself. The publication highlights Olympic shooter Sježana Pešić.
This one is mind-blowing.
It is. Pešić is at a high-level competition, and she notices an opponent from El Salvador has suffered a catastrophic equipment failure right before the match.
Oh, no.
Her rifle is broken beyond repair. Now, in professional shooting, a rifle is not generic.
Right, it's not off the rack.
Not at all. The cheek piece, the butt plate, the trigger pull weight, every single millimeter is obsessively customized to the specific biomechanics of the athlete. Handing someone your rifle is like handing them your prescription glasses.
Right. Wait, so she handed over her heavily customized rifle?
Exactly. The weapon is an extension of the athlete's specific physical geometry. Yet Pešić walks over and hands her own rifle to the El Salvadoran competitor.
Unbelievable.
She instructs her to adjust the micromillimeters, change the settings, and use it to complete the match. She intentionally surrenders her most guarded competitive advantage.
Or look at Blanka Vlasic, the two-time high jump world champion. During a major competition, her primary rival is suffering from a mechanical flaw in her jumping technique and is failing to clear the bar.
And what did she do?
Vlasic literally sends her own personal coach, Bojana Marinovic, over to her rival mid-competition to analyze and correct her opponent's form.
She lent her coach to her biggest rival.
Yes. She actively weaponized her own coaching staff against herself.
Because Vlasic's definition of victory requires defeating her opponent at their absolute unhindered best.
Exactly.
If her rival fails due to a temporary technical glitch, the resulting gold medal loses its inherent value to her. It represents an understanding that your opponent is not an enemy to be destroyed, but a necessary partner required to reach your own highest potential.
And the president of the Croatian Sports Journalists Association makes a crucial point in the publication. He argues that if we confine this philosophy only to elite athletics, we're completely missing the point. Fair play is a daily life philosophy.
It translates directly to how you, the listener, operate in your own community.
Right. The mechanics of fair play are universally applicable.
When you make a mistake on a project at work, do you own the error, or do you quietly shift the blame onto the convoluted corporate structure?
Yeah.
When you're navigating traffic, Do you aggressively close the gap to prevent someone from merging? Or do you recognize that conceding one car length doesn't actually diminish your journey?
Exactly.
These athletes are operating in the most hyper-pressurized, financially consequential environments on Earth. If Murin Cilic can forfeit a championship point, or Blanka Vlasic can coach her rival to jump higher, the average person can likely manage to pay their taxes honestly and treat the people around them with a baseline level of structural fairness.
It completely reframes the purpose of competition. We've covered immense ground today.
We really have.
We analyzed the tactical gridlock of Scotland grinding out a victory against a heavily entrenched Haitian defense, ending a generational drought. We looked at the logistical impossibilities facing the Haitian diaspora and how stepping onto the pitch was a victory of sheer existence. We broke down the mechanics of semi-automatic VAR and the dangerous consequences of hiding transparency from the public. And finally, we dismantled the history of fair play, realizing it's not an ancient Greek myth, but an active daily choice to value integrity over a hollow victory.
It is a vast spectrum of human behavior on display. But the Living Fair Play publication actually leaves us with one final, deeply uncomfortable paradox regarding the entire architecture of global sports.
Okay, what is it?
Mika Fleiss, an Olympic skier, she argues that true fair play cannot merely exist in the moment the whistle blows. It inherently demands equal conditions during the preparation stage as well.
Which completely shatters the illusion of a level playing field.
It does.
Yeah.
If fair play requires equal preparation, look at the reality we've discussed today. You have the Haitian national team displaced by violence, operating in exile, recruiting players via Zoom, and training with profoundly limited funding. And they are stepping onto the exact same pitch, expected to abide by the exact same rules as a team like Brazil or Switzerland, who possess state-of-the-art domestic infrastructure, infinite resources, and complete geopolitical stability.
Yeah, it's totally asymmetric.
It forces us to ask, is the very structure of international sport fundamentally unfair before the players even lace up their boots? And if the starting lines are indeed miles apart, does the act of a team like Haiti simply holding a European giant to a 1-0 tactical grind become a far greater athletic achievement than the favorites inevitably lifting the trophy?
It makes you question whether the final score actually tells us anything true about the contest at all. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. Keep questioning the structures around you, keep looking for the deeper mechanisms at play, and we'll catch you on the next one.